Oh, hello there. Welcome to day number 1 of the full-time journey. I'm incredibly excited to get started. It is 6:57 at the moment. I'm just going to go grab a little bit of breakfast and we're going to jump straight into work. So just starting things off this week with continuing the rework of the serialization system that I started in the previous video. For those of you that don't know what serialization is, it's basically just being able to save and read data from a file. We're about halfway through it at the moment, so hopefully things shouldn't take too long. We have just hit a massive roadblock. I'm talking rework entire serialization system big. Or not. I could do a really quick workaround now and come back to it later. Like something like that. I could do that, but I'd rather think of a more permanent solution. So I'm going to do a bit of brainstorming and hopefully come up with some sort of idea. So I've just thought of a pretty great solution. I've no idea why I didn't start out with this in the first place, but that's just how things are. You think of an idea, you go and implement it, realize it's wrong, think of a much easier and better approach, and redo it all over again. So yeah, give me a couple days. Just going ham, bro. That is what I like to see. We are finally done. It has been 2.5 days. Can't believe it's taken so long. Anyway, it is fully finished. So we've just saved the entire world file. If we launch it again, this whole thing is reconstructed. Just as an example, it'll change the position to -200. So one part of the ground will be like sunk down a little bit. Beautiful. Yep. So it works. Now that serialization is all finished off for the time being, the world is quite literally our oyster. So let's do some shit. To start things off, I reckon we need to bring the player character to life. It's looking a bit simple at the moment. So I've broken this down into an easy to follow 4-step process. Step number 1. Animate the little guy. Step number 2, make him move like the player would expect him to move. That's pretty cool. Number 3, I'm pretty sure that's everything, right? I don't think we need any more steps. And finally, step number 4, it's alive. That really isn't a step. I don't know why I put that in. I need somewhere to hang this. I'm a genius. I have no doubt that that's gonna fall down. We've already got a sprite sheet here, so this shouldn't be too difficult to organize and animate together. First things first, we need a way of telling which state the entity is in, whether that be running, walking, idle, etc. Now I could just define an enum for these states and switch animations accordingly, but that's not very robust. We're going to have all sorts of monsters and animals in this game, and all of them are going to have unique states. So in order to keep everything nice and neat and not have a million different enums for each and every entity floating around, we're going to have to create a state machine. I really need to work on my naming. I've now got a basic state system slapped together. We can cycle through it by pressing a button, and that's going to tie in with the corresponding animation. Now all that's left to do is figure out a way of automating this whole switching process. That sounds like a job for tomorrow. I mentioned yesterday that we need a way of automating the state switching to get the animations lining up with the character movement. So let's just get to it. It's time for some physics.
Gravity, acceleration, deceleration, friction.
Yay. It's been a while since I've done any collision or physics work, so it's time to blow some of the dust off of this bad boy. There's two key bits of information that we need the collision system to be able to tell us, and that's when a collision between two objects starts or ends, and then what the normal of that collision was, which is this perpendicular vector here. At least that's what I think it's called. I'm really just pulling shit out of my ass here. When I originally implemented this, it kind of gave us these two bits of information, but it's pretty messy, so I'm just going to go over it now and give everything a bit of a touch up. We've now got some basic collision direction going, and from this we can tell the state of the player. Basically any collision that occurs in the upwards direction is going to be the player touching the ground. And that's all we really care about for now. We'll come back to this further down the track when we implement wall jumping, but that's still a whiles off. I spent the rest of the day just doing some boring cleanup of the collision system, so there wasn't really much to show. We'll come back to this next week, but it's in a pretty good state for us now to move forward. So I thought I'd take a bit of a break from this whole state switching thing and implement something that I like to call frame actuation. Hey, that sounds pretty cool. Basically all it does is allow us to define certain important frames in an animation and create events from it. So I've marked these two frames out of the running animation, which happens to be the point in which it's most obvious that the player has made a footstep. So now every time the player does a footstep, we can generate a sound or create a little dust particle. I don't know, I haven't gotten that far ahead yet, but I'm sure it will come in handy when the time comes. Now that little detour is over, it's back to working on the states. I'm not too happy with the way I've initialized them. It's pretty efficient at the moment, so we're just going to do a bit of a refactor on that and take it out into the resource manager. So then that'll take care of setting all the entity states on startup. Alrighty, everything's all cleaned up now. All the states are defined in the resource file here. At the start of the game, the resource manager reads all this data in and stores it away for safekeeping. This makes things a lot faster and a lot friendlier to set up. Now that everything's looking all smick and we can switch between states willy-nilly, it's time to code this properly into the character's movements. Character is starting to come along together pretty nicely. At the moment, these are the only animations I've got, so there's no real point in implementing any other movements just yet. I reckon the general feel of the animations will be a lot better and a lot smoother if you draw them out first and then program the movements around it. Not exactly sure how that holds up, but it seems like a pretty good assumption to make. So I actually had all the art for this game drawn up a good couple of years ago by a bloke named Francis. I'll link to his Twitter down below. Check mine out. But going forward, I actually want to give pixel art a bit of a crack myself. I'm sure it'll be absolutely horrible to begin with, but I don't see why I can't learn and hopefully continue the style of what we've got going on now. So yeah, let's just crack open the old Wacom Intuos Pen Small CTL 480. Oh yeah, mate. Ah, it still works, that's good. How do I pixel art in Photoshop 2019? No hacks. Gotta love Australian internet.
Hey everybody.
Hey, I recognise this guy, I think. I don't have a jump animation drawn up yet, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and give that a bit of a crack. Finally got a rough sketch of what the jump animation will look like. This is actually going to be divided up into 5 separate states, so that's why the timing looks a bit whack at the moment. But I'm going to go ahead and implement these into the game and see how it feels, I guess. Oh, this event system, I swear to God. You've just earned yourself a bit of a bump on the old Trello, mate. So I programmed the jump animation together. Not a bad effort for my first go at animating, if I do say so myself. Just to show you that the animation isn't hard coded in, I've got my trusty little leg swollenness attribute over here, which will of course allow us to alter the height of our jump. Holy shit! Let's set it to a more reasonable value, shall we? So yeah, the animation is properly selected depending on the stage of the jump. This is what I was saying just before, how it's divided into 5 separate stages. We've got the launch, rise, apex, fall, and landing. I've still got a few more ideas for this whole jumping mechanic that I want to try out though, so I'm just going to hold out on colouring in all the animations until everything is in a nice and snappy state. I've just added in the ability for the player to perform a charged jump, which will thrust you higher into the air. It still needs a ton of work, I'm not quite happy with it just yet, but the basis is there for us to expand upon in the future. Anyways, I'm going to leave it all at that. This is going to be a good starting point for next week, in which I'm hoping to go on a bit of a developer tool rampage. While implementing this jump animation, it's made me realize that there's a few really useful tools that I'm missing out on that could speed up this whole process a bit more, as well as a few existing systems that are in dire need of some attention. Thomas event system. But yeah, all in all, we've had a pretty productive week. There's still a long way to go bringing this little character of ours to life. We've really only just touched the tip of the iceberg, but hey, everything's starting to take shape at least. Anyway, I'd love to give a huge thanks to my current Patreons, which is Arthur B, Erwin Van Krasbeek, and Farif. Apologize for completely butchering those pronunciations, but nonetheless, thank you guys so much for helping me get started in this journey. It really does mean a lot. If you're interested in supporting me, then I'll link to my Patreon page in the description. There's some pretty nice game-related rewards in there, as well as some special Discord roles and all that stuff. So if you're into that and want to see more of this weekly devlog series, then it'd be really lovely to have your support. We're only just getting started in Arcane's development journey, but I could not be more excited for what the future may hold. Thank you all so much for watching this week's development log. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have an excellent day.